Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for Let's Hear It for the Interns, our student panel. My name is Dr. Mary Roberts. I'm the Executive Director for our Center for Career and Leadership Development here at Middle Georgia State University. This is our first official event that we're doing this week specific to Internship Exploration Week. We decided to do this instead of our regular virtual internship series that we often do in April, where we have employers do sessions about internships. We will have that again in September when we're back on campus. But for April, we wanted to focus more on internship exploration and getting everybody more excited and more prepared for what could be possible in the future. We'll have a few other events for the rest of the week that we'll announce here at the end of our panel today. We have 4 students that will be speaking with y'all today about their internship experiences. We've got just a few questions for them. I want to make sure that everybody that's attending today has a chance to ask their own questions that might be on your mind about internships. But we're going to get started with just a few questions that may already be on your mind to help that conversation flow. I think the first thing we want to do is just make sure our panelists have an opportunity to introduce themselves and share a little bit about what they did in their internship. So I'll have each of our panelists introduce yourself with your name, where you interned, if you had a title, or what area of the business or organization you worked in, and maybe just briefly some of the highlights of what you got to do at that internship. And let me start with Cassidy.
Hey, so I'm Cassidy Mossberger. I'm an English major under the professional writing concentration, and I interned at Sherwin Williams as a management and sales intern over the summer in 2024.
What were some of the highlights of the things you got to do at that internship, Cassidy?
A big highlight is over the summer, you'll do like a summer intern project, and we got just a concept to do, and it was basically trying to, figure out or try to heighten engagement in the app that the company has. So what we did is we did research, and we ended up doing for the whole summer, we worked on a PowerPoint that we ended up presenting to the district and all of the top corporate people, essentially just discussing what could the company do better about, marketing their social media app.
Okay, great. Thank you. Ashlyn, I'll have you go next.
Hi, my name is Ashlyn Lippens. I interned at Delta and their flight ops operation. So I helped out with the pilot uniform store and actually did a lot with pilots. I got to do their first fittings as new hires. I got to do wing ceremonies. I helped with pilot leave. But a really cool thing is all flight operation interns, we get to jump seat. So I got to jump seat a lot, which was really cool as I'm an aviation major and want to go into the aviation industry myself.
Okay, great. Kobe.
Hi, I'm Kobe Roy, and I was an intern at Georgia Tech Research Institute. My title was a cybersecurity electronic warfare intern. So we did risk management and cybersecurity for the military systems on Robins Air Force Base.
And Stephanie.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Aguilar. I'm currently a junior and majoring in political science and minoring in business. The internship that I completed was in the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, where I kind of focused on social media and website design.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of my first big questions for y'all and for each of you to answer why did you decide to do an internship? Why was that important to you? And I'll let Stephanie take it and then we'll go back around in reverse.
So I decided to basically do an internship because I wanted more experience outside of the classroom. And I also wanted a chance to, I'm interested in law, so I wanted a chance to kind of explore the legal fields and basically learn more about different laws that I'm maybe interested in pursuing or focusing in law school. And these internships really gave me the opportunity to do that basically. And also, I was working on building my basically law school resume. So when I'm applying for, a professional school, I'm able to have that experience.
And I know you said internship, Stephanie, so you've done a couple of internships. Why was it important for you to do more than one, and even more than that, just starting early on that process?
Yeah, so I've done, I want to say about 6 internships as well as some other experiences like volunteer work, just to kind of get more, I guess, get into different fields. One was in environmental law, one was in criminal law. I was able to, through these internships, these variety of internships, right? I was able to explore all these different legal fields. And I was able to kind of narrow down the fields that I wanted to go into. I know that I'm not really that interested in environmental law or criminal law or administrative law, that sort of thing. So this was a really good experience to learn um, what I wasn't interested in and what I was interested in.
Yes, that is a definitely a good reason to do an internship. A lot of times we find out what we don't like when we're doing one. Kobe, what about you? What was important to you when you decided to do an internship?
For me, it was really piggybacking off of what Stephanie said, just that ambition to learn more about my field. So I'm a cybersecurity major, and I just love technology. So I utilize the tools that I learned in classroom at home. So it just makes sense for me to go out and try and get professional experience in the field. But I would also say that for my major, it's important that you get internships because a lot of the tools that jobs require, you can really only get in a professional setting. So I decided to do an internship because I felt it was required before I graduated in order to be where I wanted to be in my career.
That's a good point. I think a lot of times people go, "Oh, do I have to do one?" And even though your major didn't require it, you felt like for your profession, it was definitely required. It's
Yeah.
something you had to do. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point for everybody to think about. Ashlyn, what about you?
So I wanted to put my name out there, even though I'm like far away from getting into the like going to be a pilot in any um company. I just wanted my name out there because both my parents work there, and I wanted to separate myself from my parents.
Okay.
And I love Delta. I really just wanted to go see what the everyday day-to-day operations is like.
Okay. Okay. Very good. And I guess too, being a flight student, you don't necessarily have to go and do an internship. And so I guess you had just that extra ambition to learn more about the company. Was that kind of what you were thinking?
Yeah, and also during this time, it's all about making connections.
Mm-hmm.
So I also, again, I wanted to go there. I wanted to make some connections. I've met a lot of great people. I still stay in contact with a lot. I've met my mentor through Delta, and I wanted to make those connections so that way when it was time to become an airline pilot, I had a good chance of getting into Delta because that's where I want to end up, and I would have those people to like help me get a job.
Okay, great. Great. Cassidy.
Okay, so my reasons are like almost pretty much the same. It's honestly it was to build my resume. And I'm one of those where, the internship didn't really align with my major at all. But that was really the point because, as an English major, I'm not wanting to do, like the traditional what you would think an English major would want to do. Like I want to work, in technical writing. And an important piece of that is showing companies like that you've worked in different environments and just really like building up your resume, building up your skills and just your experience. And it's really something admirable that companies like. And I think I just wanted it to like pretty much build up my resume and just so when I do graduate, I'll have a probably hopefully an easier time, finding a full-time opportunity with all these experiences pretty much.
Okay. So it sounds like building up experiences, getting your foot in the door with a company you're interested in, networking, being ready to enter your profession, figuring out what you like and don't like. Sounds like a lot of the things that when we're trying to tell a student, hey, you need to do an internship, those are all the reasons we tell people. On our meeting today, we also have Dr. Heather McIntosh, who's our Assistant Director for Internships and Career Readiness, and Miss Myra Gist, who is our Internship and Career Development Coordinator. So I would imagine they are in agreement. They hear those things quite a bit as well. So all perfect, very, very important reasons for doing an internship. I think some of you, maybe one of you mentioned it, but I know we've got one panelist who's done several internships. I'm sure all of you have some insight into how you landed an internship, and I know that is often what is on a student's mind, and that may be why we have a lot of people joining us today. Could some of you share what it was like looking for an internship? What were some of the resources you used in that process?
I guess I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I used LinkedIn, and I honestly just searched. The way I found the internship is I actually was trying to just find a better job. Like it really had nothing to do with school. I was just trying to find a better, opportunity. And I thought, hey, this summer internship looks interesting. And I just applied for it. So all I did was go on LinkedIn and search for internships in Warner Robins, Georgia. And they popped up. And honestly, you get to a point where you just start applying to almost anything that looks like it would benefit you. And that's pretty much what I did.
How many internships do you think you applied to?
I can't tell you how many I've applied to. Like there's so many, so many.
So but you hear that a lot. You've got to apply to a lot in order just to even sometimes get that one interview.
Yeah, and sometimes a really hard thing is there are a lot of internships that would benefit me greatly, like for technical writing, but location is a big issue, especially around here. I mean, there are, military contractors, that have internships that would be, good for me, but just in the area, it's really hard. You're going to find a lot of internships like in Atlanta or just in totally different states, and you're like, that seems scary. I don't want to go over there. So just finding stuff in the area was really just my goal. So that's how I found Sherwin.
Okay, great. Anybody else use LinkedIn in their search?
Yeah, I definitely used LinkedIn, and I also wanted to add for Cassidy, there are remote internships that are paid. They do 10 to 20 to 40 hours, like an actual job within. So you could definitely check that out. But for my application, I mean, for the looking for internships, I definitely used Handshake. That was a majority of where my internships definitely came from. I've used LinkedIn, but I use LinkedIn as well as the job section where you can click on to find internships, but you can also, if you've basically connected with a lot of other students or other professionals that are kind of in that certain area, they like to repost certain programs that aren't necessarily, on the job or on Handshake. They're usually just programs that are kind of a little bit hidden away, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think often we find is that employers search for any position, internships included, in so many different ways. And that they always post with the career services offices at universities. And then there's some that it's only on LinkedIn or it's all through word of mouth. It's who they tell who they know. So LinkedIn can be we get a lot of questions about LinkedIn, or we've started to see, some students not using it as maybe we would have seen 5 years ago. It still sounds to me like it is still something job seekers need to be using. So if you're not up to date on LinkedIn, no, that's something that our department can help you with. I think Myra put something in the chat about the alumni tool in LinkedIn, and that's something we definitely can help y'all navigate. That's a way to identify alumni who might be in your major, might be at a company you're interested in, and just, starting to make those networking contacts, just to find out about someone's experience at a company. And sometimes that can lead to a conversation about an internship, maybe one that an organization didn't even post, but they're open to having a student that reaches out to them. Ashlyn and Kobe, what were some of the resources either one of you used to find your internship?
So I used LinkedIn also when I found the Georgia Tech Research Institute opportunity, but for the current job I have, I work in IT services as a student assistant for MGA, and I actually found that on the MGA careers webpage.
That's right. Yeah. Because we get a lot of questions about student jobs. And I think that's another area to get some great experience is just working on campus, particularly if what you do is represented on campus. And one thing to always remember, university is a business. So probably what you want to do, there is an office for it at the university. So all of those campus jobs are posted on our human resources website at the university. So not on Handshake, but there's a human resources page for the university. So yeah, that's great. How did you feel, Kobe? Did you feel like your internship experience made a difference when you interviewed for that job?
I think I want to say yes, but I kind of say no because I did ask them after I was hired, like what was the deciding factor and why I was chosen over other applicants, and it wasn't they didn't mention so much about my previous work experience, but more so my extracurricular initiatives. So being a part of clubs or like just working on technology and different softwares on my own personal time. So I told them about like my home lab that I have set up, my home network, the things that the conferences that I attend for and represent the school in, leadership, volunteer. It just really, they said that me being a well-rounded um, student while balancing everything else is why they decided on me.
Okay.
The previous internship experience was just a plus.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Anything else y'all want to say about the search process and resources you used? Okay. Another thing that we hear people mention in the internship search is, how is this different than my part-time job? Why would I go and do this when I'm already working somewhere? What would any of y'all, this can, anyone who could answer this, what would you say to a student who had that question?
Would start off with saying that and the difference between an internship and a part-time job is that the focus is on you as the student, as the intern. So before I came back to school, I worked in appliance and uh a warehouse job. So just heavy lifting, moving boxes, putting up things. There's just in you come in, you do your work, you leave, and that you forget about it after you clocked out. With an internship, um, in some way, shape, or form, it's targeting your growth and your professional development, your technical skills, your soft skills, trying to make you not just a good worker for their company, but taking those giving you transferable skills that you can take to another job.
Okay, great. Yeah, those are great points.
And I wanted to say, a lot of internships and a lot of companies, at least in my opinion, seem to do internships because like they want to keep you, in a way. They want to keep you on like their file and on their mind, and usually internships are like almost geared for preparing you for a full-time position, at least especially at Sherwin Williams. Like the point is for like university students to be like kind of like they want to forward you in their company.
Mhm.
Like they want to get you to learn, how their company works because they really, really, value your degree. And it's really going to help you, move up in a company like that. And that's pretty much what an internship, like how it's different than just a part-time job.
Very true. Any other perspectives compared to other part-time jobs, like part-time jobs you've had and what was expected of you at the internship?
Yeah, so with internships, they're more like learning opportunities. So they're usually a way for you to get experience, but they also know that you're a student. So they're not as hard as like on you. You're not expected to, do every single thing, know every single thing. They kind of guide you basically.
Yeah, it's definitely that one time you can go into work and say, hey, teach me everything. I want to learn everything. Yeah, that's a really good point. The application process, what was that like? Um, what did you have to do to apply for these internships that you've all done?
Yeah, so I'll start off. Definitely with like the Delta internship is super competitive. I actually had to reapply. I applied twice before I could get it. But I know I filled out like the questionnaire on the Delta website and sent in my resume, and then they came back and we did a virtual interview. And then from there, and then a couple weeks later, I found out I got the job. But I know, which is kind of fun, is they'll actually give the current interns the resumes and they'll say, okay, go through these and just tell us which ones you think should deserve an interview, which was super fun because it like let me look at other resumes and let me like see, okay, what should a resume really look like?
So what did you learn from that process, Ashlyn, when you were looking at resumes of potential interns?
Definitely like how to format my resume, like keep it all on one page. Don't like a lot of people add like their high school awards, and it's like you're in college, don't add your high school awards when it's not really like that important. And a big thing about Delta is spelling airlines as two words. And so anyone that spelled Delta Airlines as like two words instead of three, they were automatically cut. Like we take that very seriously at Delta.
Okay, like do your research before you apply.
Yes.
Definitely. They that attention to detail is so important. Yes, high school is no longer needed on your college resume. And that is a mistake we see across the board. Something that pretty much every time when we're doing resume reviews, doing workshops, that's something we've got to point out to people, really highlight what you have done over your time in college. And, even though if you haven't finished your degree, that's okay. You still put Middle Georgia State on your resume and what degree and major you're working on. What was the interview process? Like as with all of you, I'm sure you had interviews for these internships. How did those compare in terms of other interviews you'd had in the past? Was it more formal, less formal?
So, um, I've had a lot of interviews in different formats. I've had virtual interviews, I've had in-person interviews, I've had technical interviews, and I've had even the ones where you pre-recorded interviews. All of them are really different, and you have to prepare yourself in different ways for each. But one thing that's really helped me out, no matter which job I'm applying to, is studying the website. Most companies, they have a some sort of mission statement or ethos that they're trying to convey, like they that represents their company. So just looking at that really gives you a feel of how to sell yourself on a personable level. So being able to attach those values from jobs, their websites, and making sure you emphasize that in your interview. That's what really I feel helps me and has helped me with the jobs I have gotten.
And that's very, very important. Look at who you want to work for and be able to express why in terms of what they have on their website. They put, companies now put so much information out there. They really, they really expect you to do that homework. Cassidy, were you going to say something?
Uh, all I was gonna say, is my interview was honestly just like any other interview I had before.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the Sherwin Williams thing just kind of landed in my lap. And I remember I just came in and I wasn't really sure I wanted it. I kind of just went in there, just like, did my thing, and then it ended up being a great opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, my application process for my internships was a little bit different. There was one that was kind of complicated, I guess, or at least it was a little surprising. But for the public defender's internship, basically, you're supposed to do the basic submit the resume, and then, but for this one, you're supposed to submit the resume, then you get basically they send a book. It's like 58 pages, I want to say, and you're supposed to read the entire book. And then in the virtual interview with the public defender, you're basically supposed to answer a few basic questions like why this interview, that sort of thing. And then the last question is basically talking about the book that you're supposed to read, summarizing it, basically presenting the information to him, which was a little difficult. Because I did it. I think it was like within a week because of the due date. And then after that, basically he'll let you know whether you'll be doing that internship or not, or that program. And then there was another one that was more simpler for the mayor's office of community affairs, which basically, you turn in the resume and then, you get selected for the interview, the actual interview. You go in, there's about 4 to 5 people sitting at like a big table. They ask you about 10 questions. And in this one, basically, they talk more about your past experience. They said, basically, I want to say it was mainly like your interest in the program as well, but also it mainly focused on your past experiences, that sort of thing. And if you do get it, they'll send an email, you'll do a background check, fingerprinting, and a drug test, I believe, because you will be working in the government.
Mm-hmm. How long was the application and interview process at Delta? Like how long, like from the time you applied until the time you got an offer, Ashlyn?
Oh, I want to say at least a month,
Okay.
if not more.
Okay.
I want to say more.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else, did it take shorter or longer than 1 to 2 months?
For me, I got really two different experiences. So for the one I currently have, I applied to this job probably the beginning of the fall semester last year. So I've been waiting, and I just started last month. So
Uh-huh.
I've been waiting for quite a bit. Um, but my GTRI internship, that one was fairly quick, but I meant to add this, but when I applied to this, I actually found this job by messaging the branch manager on LinkedIn, asking if there was any opportunities that they had, um, that or any learning opportunities or information or guidance that I could get from him. And he was like, "Hey, we have this job posting. You should apply to it." So I applied to it, and then I think a week or two later, I got a call back for an interview, and I went in person, and the next day they hired me.
Okay, so yours was very quick. Okay.
Yeah. And what's it called? When I went in and I asked like why I was chosen, the branch manager said it was because I messaged him asking for opportunities on LinkedIn. So what's it called just being standing out.
Right. And that's something that we learn a lot. And I think like Cassidy mentioned, in our area, it's a little different looking for internships in a smaller community as opposed to the big city of Atlanta, right? You've got a lot of corporations in Atlanta with big headquarters, and they've got this, just very routinized process maybe on how an internship happens. Whereas in smaller locations, sometimes sometimes they happen because you reach out to someone, but then even with those larger organizations, that reaching out goes a long way, that maybe they have all these people apply, but that person who reached out and tried to make that extra connection can really see a lot of good things happen as a result. So very good advice. Okay. One of my questions for all, whoever can respond to it, did your internship change any of your previous career plans? Did that happen to anybody?
I would say it definitely happened for me. So when I first doing like extracurricular activities in my major, it was in hacking competitions. So like my first thought was I wanted to be a pen tester. I wanted to do ethical hacking. I wanted to break computers, all the whole nine. And when I got my internship with Georgia Tech, um, I was learning a lot about the defensive side of cybersecurity from a practical standpoint. And then on top of that, I was also learning through my coursework, I was taking a lot of defensive security classes. So those two just going hand in hand, like really kind of changed like what I wanted to do in terms of my career. So like now I've moved away from penetration testing and more so into security operations and risk management.
Okay, so that really helped you solidify your specific interests in technology.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Anybody else?
I mean, my internship definitely like made me question if I wanted to be a pilot because I was like, well,
Okay.
I really enjoyed like the corporate side. And I was like, what if I stayed corporate? So, I mean, I'm still going to be a pilot, but I think I might do what a lot of pilots do where they still work corporate, but they also fly. I think
Okay.
that's where I might be leaning towards.
Yeah, that was definitely something I wondered about because so many of our flight students
Mhm.
either don't have time to do an internship because they're trying to get those hours in. And so you've had that extra opportunity to really see what it's like on the other, on that business side.
Yeah, and I'm flight training at home, so I was still building my hours and also
Mhm.
doing my school. So I was like, I was just doing everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Okay. Good. Let's see. Um, I'm going to ask one more question before we open up the floor to the other students that are on the call. So we get this question a lot. Is it worth it? And I hear a lot of you are balancing a lot of different things. If somebody was asking you now, like, should I really do this? And I know we've talked a lot of good things about internships already, but what would be the one thing you would tell somebody in terms of, if you don't do an internship, this is what's going to happen, and a lot of you have been going through a job search. So how would you tell a student that an internship really is worth it?
Um, I would say you have to change your mindset into thinking that it's required. A lot of the field is very competitive, and I'll tell you, as an IT major, and I also compete with computer science majors, it's very competitive. And when you're applying to these jobs, especially in bigger cities, you're not only applying to everybody who's in that city, you're also applying to everybody who wants to move to that city, who's willing to move for that job. So you have to uh, understand that if you want to start your career right after you graduate, or if you want to be in your career after you graduate, you have to take the 4 years while you're here as serious as you can and try and get internships.
Okay.
I would say that I don't know if it's because I've done an internship, but the fact that I have a resume that is a full page of things that I've done, I think has gotten me, like, I have heard back from companies that I never dreamed that I would even hear from. And I'm pretty convinced that it's because I've done, internships and done, extracurriculars and stuff. But I really think the work experience is something that companies really, really look for.
Yeah, I would agree.
Piggyback off of that too by adding like it's not they're not really looking for you having technical experience or even experience relative to the field. They really want to see, have you been in a professional setting before? So when I applied to Georgia Tech, all I had was my appliance job and my high school job that when I worked at Brewster's. But I was able to show that I know how to work in professional settings. I know how to work on teams. I know how to work with customers. I know how to call it I know how to document things, stuff like that. So just having just transferable skills from any type of work setting can really be a benefit to you.
Yeah,
Yes,
and I wanna
definitely.
I wanna say, like, I've even had a recruiter before look at my resume, and all she had to say was, you look like you seem very driven. Like, she was like, what I like to see is the fact that you've worked, throughout high school, throughout college, and it really shows drive and initiative, interpersonal skills, that you can work with people. That's a big deal, I think, with a lot of companies, is them seeing that you can, really handle yourself in, like, fast-paced environment situations with teams and stuff like that.
Definitely. Yeah, we talk about transferable skills all the time. And you guys just mentioned a whole bunch of them that, yeah, it doesn't, you can do an internship that's just like your major, right? But it may not get to all those transferable skills. So at the end of the day, that's really what the employers wanting first and foremost, because those are harder to train, right? That somebody can work as a team, they can work with other people, they can communicate well. So you come into that internship and that really helps you practice those things. And then when you go in for those full-time interviews, it also gives you something to talk about too. So I don't know if those of you have been, I know Cassidy, you've been job searching, if you feel like having that internship experience has helped communicate during interviews a little bit better than maybe in the past.
Yeah, because a lot of companies will ask you those questions about, like, oh, what's a time when you did this and you did this? Like, how did you solve this problem? I'm like, oh yeah, I have 3 sets of problems that I could talk about from this job, this job, and this job. So it really helps you even answer interview questions.
Exactly. All right. Well, for our attendees of the panel today, our students that have joined us to learn about internships, I would love to be able to open up the floor to y'all to any questions that you have for our student panelists today. You can raise your hand if you've got, and if you're able to turn your camera on and your microphone, or if you want to put it in the chat. It looks like we've got one coming in through the chat. So our chat question, I've been so nervous with applying to internships because the requirements of the postings are way beyond what I've learned in my major. I've been told that I don't have to know everything that is listed, but it still makes it extremely intimidating. What advice do
Uh,
y'all have for Brandon?
Apply anyway. Apply anyway. Even you are a student, you're not expected to know everything. And even if you don't know everything, apply anyways, because in most jobs, they don't just throw you in without teaching you anything. If you have basic knowledge, say you don't understand a complete operating system, but you understand how to use Windows because you use a laptop, right? So you those are skills that you can apply to the job. You don't have to match every single thing in it. If you match one thing, or if you see something in an internship that you know that you're going to learn. So for me, I know that I'm going to learn things about network security, enterprise security, things like that. So if I'm looking at a job, I don't have tangible skills in network security, but I know that I'm learning the theoretical skills from my coursework. So I apply anyways, because I'm going to learn the fundamental knowledge regardless. So I always keep that in mind too.
That's great advice.
Yeah, so I also want to add to that because that also did happen to me as well when I was applying. I want to say I had one experience on my resume, and it was pretty empty at the beginning. So for that, I mainly just started with a kind of basically an internship that got my foot into the door. It was with the U.S. Forest Service. It was a VSFS internship, which you can definitely look into if you're new. They do government internships with the Department of State, with the U.S. Forest Service, with some other agencies that I cannot remember off the top of my head, but you can definitely look into that. But doing an internship or a volunteer work or something that gets your foot into the door of whatever um, thing you want to do, like whether it's political science, cybersecurity, that sort of thing.
I'll add to that. Like I've applied and got interviews for jobs in healthcare. I know nothing about healthcare, but I know about IT, and there's jobs in healthcare that deal with IT. And I haven't gotten a job in healthcare in those healthcare jobs, but I gotten those interviews, and when I've gotten feedback from them, it's because of my community engagement, my volunteer experience, doing extracurricular things, because healthcare is about people at the end of the day. So the fact that I show that I'm engaged with people, that's enough for them. I don't necessarily have to know a lot about of the healthcare side of IT, but the fact that I'm a personable human being, I can fit well into it.
See, we've had a lot of other questions come in. This is great. One of the questions we had, did you all intern during the summer or while taking classes or was it during a regular semester?
Yeah, so I interned last fall, and which is really nice about MGA is all the online courses that they offer. So I was able to keep a full load of classes, which was something very important to my mom because she was like, "You can't lose the hope while doing this internship." So I
Mhm.
definitely made sure to still have my classes, but I did do it in the fall because I didn't get the summer one. So I again reapplied, so I got the fall, which was really nice.
And often we find that summer is super competitive for internships, especially if you're trying to go to like the bigger companies, bigger city. So if you are able to go in a fall and spring, that could be, that may have been what happened. Fall is, a lot of people are in classes. So if you're able to do some online and do an internship at the same time, then, that may open up other opportunities.
When I interned at GTRI, I was there for a full calendar year.
Okay.
So my experience on that is two things is one, you need to stay on top of your schedule. You when you apply to jobs, if you put up have on your resume that you're doing extracurricular things, volunteer work, it's really important that you continue to do that while you're doing your internship. So having that balance and making sure you're on top of your schedule is important. And then two is making sure, and I just forgot it. Um, man, it's just on the tip of my tongue. I forgot, but that first one, just making sure that you're on top of your schedule and making and keeping up with your things. Oh, that's what it was. Having a support system. Miss Roberts know that I come to her talking about internships, how I can improve. Miss Myra knows, and I'm not sure Raphael's here, but I go to Raphael often, just getting guidance on how to be a better leader, how to even do a work-life balance. So whether that just making sure you have a support system, whether you already have one or just establishing that yourself is very important in order to maintain that work-life balance.
Yeah, that's great advice. Did anybody do one in the summer while they weren't taking classes?
So I did do one in the summer when I wasn't taking classes during the summer. I think it was at a nonprofit that I mainly focused on research.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So kind of a variety. So it sounds like, yeah, balancing school and an internship is possible. Just got to stay organized and have a good support system. What about pay? We've had some questions about, I think we've probably had a mix of some unpaid, some paid. You don't have to say what you made, but if you want to share that, I know that's what a lot of people ask, but does it pay as well as a part-time job? Might be the thing that a lot of people are wondering about.
I will say, when I found out what I was being paid, I was very surprised and happy about it. So
Good.
typically they're going to be depending on what you're doing, what company, because you're going to find a lot of, internships that are going to be unpaid, and those are kind of more volunteer, unpaid like positions. But depending on the company, and usually they're going to list it on the job ad, like on LinkedIn, Indeed, they're going to say what they're going to be paying you hourly. And yeah.
I know, Stephanie, you've done a mix of some unpaid, because I think the federal virtual ones, were those unpaid?
Yeah, those were definitely unpaid, but they were only, I think, 10 hours that you were required to do. So you could do, 2 to 3 hours a day whenever you can. However, the one in the local government, the Macon+Bibb, was paid. I don't exactly remember how much it was. It was okay. Yeah, there was some unpaid, some paid. I do know that some internships pay really well that are like, 22 to like $50 an hour. So you can definitely look out for those, but those are usually extremely competitive. So
Why anyways? You never know.
That's right. That's right. And I think too, we'll see people that'll say, hey, I really can't do 20 hours a week. I can only do 5 hours or 10 hours. That's when you got to be a little flexible and say, hey, maybe I need to look at a project or something and paid with a nonprofit or a government agency just to get that experience. And so just thinking about what your expectations are and what the organization's expectations are, making sure those match up. Because as Cassidy said, like if they have a specific task that they need you to do and fulfill, those types of internships are definitely going to be more likely to be paid and pay well. And then sometimes you have those internships where they are expecting to teach you everything. And so that may be where you see more of those unpaid opportunities. Internships are more likely to be paid than they used to be, but there's still some variance on that. And that's something our office can certainly help you with. I think we had a question as well about academic credit. Someone said, I think that's what they were getting at. Did you have to get permission from the college before you started applying, or do you tell the college after you get the internship? This is a really good question. I'm glad you asked it. We get these kinds of questions all the time. I definitely want our panelists to weigh in on whether they got credit or not for their internship. But one thing, y'all can apply to internships all you want. You don't have to tell anybody you're applying. Now, I would recommend that you're getting some assistance from us on your resume, that you're learning about search resources, you're preparing for your interview. We even have a new mock interview platform called Big Interview that you can use. That's in addition to meeting with us to do a mock interview. So you want to make sure you're using all your resources from the university while you're applying, but you don't have to get permission to apply. Now, if you're wanting to get academic credit, there's a process for that with your individual majors. And then we also have a program through our office called Nights at Work that Dr. McIntosh manages, that is for anybody who wants to do an internship, doesn't care about getting credit, doesn't want to pay for the class, but they still want the university's acknowledgement and recognition for the internship. We're going to do a session on that on Thursday. There are two offered. There's one at 12 and 2. I think Dr. McIntosh was typing something. She may have something she wants to add about the credit and non-credit. I don't know if she wants to get on the mic.
I pretty much said what you just said. If you scroll further down, basically she doesn't have to get permission first. There might be some requirements if she wants academic credit. Otherwise, report it to our office, be a part of our program. But again, not required to get any kind of permission first, either way, whether you're doing it for credit or not. So yeah. But yeah, thanks for mentioning the session though. I did forget to put that in my post. Yeah, I will be hosting 2 sessions, one at 12 and one at 2, as Dr. Roberts said, on Thursday, to go over that program and what it looks like and just the different ways that our office can help you in your search and the different resources we have. And so any questions you have about that, try to attend one of those sessions on Thursday.
Very good. Very good.
I'd also like to add about the campus resources. I know for academic credit. So I know for the School of IT, School of Computing, if you are in any internship, that is a program. So there are clear milestones. There is some sort of end project that you're doing that automatically qualifies you to get internship experience. I only know this because I found out about it after my GTRI experience, and I unfortunately didn't get academic credit for that, but because of how the internship was formatted, I could have gotten academic credit for it. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think every department's a little different as to what they look for what they'll approve, but that's generally what all of them, they want to see that you're doing real hands-on work, that there's a project, that there's tangibles coming out of it. There might be a number of hours you're supposed to work. And so we give a lot of that guidance to students and to employers when we're talking to them to try to encourage them to make sure their internships match those types of things if in case a student does want to get credit. And then we've got some standards for Nights at Work that might be a little bit more flexible, especially for somebody who may not want to do that credit class. But yeah, there are a lot of ways at the university to get recognition. We're a good place to start if you're not sure, like, who do I go to? What do I do? We find a lot of people, they know they want the experience. So let's focus on that first. And then, as you're getting your feet wet with that job search, that internship search, then, okay, what do I need to know about academic credit if that is something I want to go down and do once I get that internship? Let's see, what were some of our other questions? I want to make sure we address all of them. Let's see. how soon should I start applying for internships? I'm a fully online graduate student without prior knowledge or background in IT, but I've had some basic experience. I don't have a major, so how best can I apply? Let's see, so graduate student. I mean, whether you're an undergraduate or a graduate student, I know we tell kind of everyone in general, it's important to be out there looking all the time once you know that you want to do an internship. Sometimes opportunities come about just because you're out there doing things. So I don't know if any of our panelists can speak to that. I know Ashlyn shared that she applied for, the internship she ended up doing a few different times. And so I think from everybody's experience, it's a process. It's not like when you go to apply for a part-time job and they might hire you on the spot because they need somebody right then. Internships are more similar to a professional job search that will tell people a lot of times it might take 6 to 9 months. I know some of
Yeah,
y'all mentioned
so-
background checks and things like that. And so you just never know how long it might take. So maybe as soon as you're ready, you ought to start applying.
Yeah, I wanted to say that a lot of internships are typically like semester based. So
Mhm.
they'll do spring, summer, fall internships. And typically, like, let's say they'll post them like way ahead of time, sometimes the year like prior, especially if you're looking consistently at, job, like apps and stuff. So I guess like for example, like if you're wanting to apply for a fall internship, they're probably going to have a deadline by like the summertime, just or just a little bit before. It's going to look something like that.
Yeah, that's good advice. We even see some companies, they'll be looking in the fall for their summer interns. So some of them have these super early deadlines. So look at when you want to do it. Or, if you're just, hey, I just want to do one. So maybe just make sure you're out there doing all the things, job searching on LinkedIn, Handshake, company websites, going to career
Yeah.
fairs.
And I'll even say if you have certain companies that you're really like wanting to work for, they typically have talent communities. You can sign up, on their website and they'll send you emails of all of the jobs that are coming through. So yeah, that's
Good.
helpful.
Yeah, that's really good advice. What kind of extracurricular activities would you recommend for someone in IT? Also, can volunteering be sort of a replacement for internships if I'm not able to get an internship?
Extracurricular activities. So one, uh, the first form, I would say, you being a MJ student, I would definitely consider joining the Association of Information Technology Students, that's AITS, or Women in Technology Students, that's WITS. Definitely joining those clubs just because they also engage in conferences, other events. They also do, sorry, they also work with other events. They work uh, in conferences, things like that. Then and I know with those two specific clubs for IT, the faculty advisors for them are heavily involved in the department and in networking and getting students opportunities, internship opportunities, or possible work experience opportunities. So definitely for that. And volunteering, um, it
Yes.
depends.
Yeah.
And I say yes, it depends. So um with AITS we had an opportunity, we volunteered to help and do help desk computer management for the campground. So we went there and we worked on computers, um help fixing them, troubleshooting, things like that. And so that's something that we added to our resumes as an experience that we did because it was related to IT. We didn't get paid for it, but we still did work. So in that sense, yes, it can be.
Yeah, and I
So
think a lot of times we'll have people think they can't put things on their resume unless it was paid work. So any kind of experience is fair game for your resume. And so, yeah, if you get a chance to help with a project through a student organization or maybe a class, sometimes I know some of the academic classes might have a project that even if it's a hypothetical situation, those are things you can put on your resume. Even if it's volunteer that maybe doesn't have to do with your field, if you feel like it's going to help you, improve interpersonal skills or critical thinking or teamwork, just get you out there meeting people. That's another great reason to, look for volunteer opportunities. If you haven't found the internship that you're looking for yet.
And you can always just do something that you enjoy. I mean, like just join some club or organization that you just find you're really passionate about and find something that you're doing there that you can put on your resume and tailor to what you want in the future. Because companies are not just looking at technical skills. Do you know this, this, and this? They're looking just sometimes they're just interested in you as a person and what you're interested in and just the kind of person that you are, oftentimes.
Yeah, that's a
oh
good
yeah, and
point.
piggybacking off what Cassidy said, for what I did, for example, is I created a chess club on campus, and then I put that on my resume that I founded and created a chess club. And that's something that I was able to speak to in my interviews. So I just gave myself a free layup to speak about something. So always think outside the box, think of ways, always think of different avenues that you can market yourself.
Yeah. And I think too, like with a lot of the clubs and organizations, no matter what your major is or what your career plan is, there is probably an officer role or a committee role in that organization that would give you practice in your field. So whether it's helping with the website or, you know, writing publicity, creating marketing, whatever you're doing the finances. I think a lot of people, I know that was true for me as an undergraduate, getting involved in my student organization had a lot to do with my career choice down the road. And so, just looking for experience everywhere is key. Don't limit yourself. Even when we were talking about, oh gosh, I don't have enough experience, the job description may say one thing. You know what? You just apply, just put yourself out there. You never know what might happen. So, yeah, don't limit yourself as to what might get you that experience that you need or what opportunity might end up selecting you for an internship. Let's
One tip I
see.
always, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just looking at the chat. Go
No.
ahead.
One tip that I recommend to students is when you're applying to internships, whatever it says under the requirements or the responsibilities of a person in the job, don't think of it as something that you already need to have. Think of it as something that you want to do. So when I look at security operations jobs or other cybersecurity jobs, yeah, and the responsibilities, it's something that I haven't done, but it's something that I want to do. So I applied to that. Because remember, the internships are about getting the experience, not already having the experience. So whatever job that you see, think of it as something that you want to do, not something that you need to have skills to do or prerequisite skills to have.
Exactly. And I think another thing, and I don't know if any of our panelists could speak to this too. Um, at- I know I see this sometimes with IT. It's like, okay, well, my concentration's this, so I must have an internship that's specifically this. Think about too, like, are there opportunities in other types of internships that might be, hey, it's still in my field, but I would be learning something else. Those might be other things to consider too, so that you can broaden, especially if you're just getting started. I think cybersecurity is a good example of where we'll see people go, oh, well, if I'm doing technology support, I won't get exposed to cybersecurity. But I would imagine, Kobe, in your new position on campus, you have already had some exposure to cybersecurity in that role. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would just imagine that it comes up.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like just understanding that uh, when you're working with uh, education institutions, there are definitely certain security requirements that we have to follow. And even in basic work like helping set up a workstation, you have to keep that security mindset in mind. And also what's good about working in the IT services department is I do work just helping fixing the IT systems on campus, but I also get to speak to my boss's boss, who is the chief information security officer of the university. So that he's in a position, his title is something that I want to be for my career. So I, have been speaking to him and just keeping in contact and just asking like, okay, what about this? Like I have questions about like the field and stuff like that.
It's great. So as we wrap up, I don't think we have any more questions in the chat, but Kobe's last comment, I think gave us a good like final piece to address. And that is, we talked about networking, we've talked about connections. I've heard some of you mention mentoring. If each of you who can speak to this can share how your internship experience has helped you get connected to other professionals, either in your field or just other professionals in general. How has that helped you as a result of your internship?
Um, for me, it was kind of in an indirect way. So at GTRI, we learned it's a very niche field because we do a lot of government contracts. So a lot of the terminology that we use, even some of the technology and documents that we reference are very specific to the government. And from that experience, when I went to a cybersecurity conference in Atlanta, I spoke. I went to a presentation of a uh, of, of someone who was giving a presentation at the conference. I spoke to him afterwards, and it was his presentation was on what I was doing, the risk management work that I was doing at GTRI. Afterwards, I spoke to him. I said, "Hey, I really loved your presentation. Like, if I had known this while I was working here, it would have been like a great help." Da 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 da. And I stayed in contact with him, and now he's my mentor now, and I speak to him on like every like 4 month basis, keeping tabs. He's helped me like how to prepare for a certification that I recently got. Um, so yeah, and that was simply just because I had a conversation that I was able to speak to something because of an internship that I had.
That's great. Anybody else have a good connection and story to wrap us up with?
I want to say it wasn't like internship specific. I have met wonderful people through my internship and other people in different, departments that I could possibly work in. But I want to say, doing my internship really, inspired me to go to our school's career fairs that we have. And I will say I did meet somebody at the career fair, another working professional, and just by striking up conversation, a year later, I get reached out to and he wants me to do work for him, like some like on the side, like freelance writing work, for social media. And I am just like, I just talked to this guy at my career fair and I'm getting just opportunities just randomly that I can, use to really forward myself. So just honestly, taking advantage of every opportunity is really going to help you out.
That's great. That's awesome to hear.
Now, I do also wanted to mention, this isn't really related to internships, but there is this thing where you are able to basically, hold on, let me just put this into the chat. So if you click on that, basically it's a resource where you're able to get connected with other professionals that are within your field. It's something basically you can schedule a, I guess something similar to a meeting, interview their mentors basically within different industries. And you can basically just select whichever one you can talk to them. Basically, they'll give you more insight into, resumes that are within the field, that sort of thing. Or if you just want to talk to them, like networking wise, they can give you opportunities you may not know at their company. So that's definitely something that's great to check out. And then also for the people that aren't able to maybe do internships, there's, Parker Dewey.
Yeah.
There's Extern, which is more business wise, but it's more like it's kind of similar to an online course, but you're, able to kind of put that, you did maybe a month of whatever and you have a project lined up. And then sorry, just wanted to kind of insert that into that, because I know some people work and they may not be able to do an internship or have like 20 to 30 hours. So there are some other options outside of internships, like externships or forage, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Okay. That's great. Thanks for sharing those resources. Yeah, we recommend Parker Dewey a lot to individuals who they've just got a few hours a week, and so Parker Dewey will post projects and they do, I believe those are paid projects. So they do pay people for their time. But I think a big message we've heard is like being in the right place at the right time. And that often happens because we're out there doing all the right things and not stopping. It's applying to many internships. It's applying to an internship. Hey, I didn't get it the first time. Let me try again. It's connecting with alumni. It's probably setting time every day to go and look, apply to things, being diligent, staying, if an internship's really what you want, making a plan, setting goals for yourself, so that you are making those connections, that you are finding those opportunities to apply to, that you are putting your materials together well. You don't want to apply to all the internships and then come to the CCLD for help. You want to come to us for help and then apply for internships and do your interview so that you are putting your best foot forward. So I think we've heard a lot of really good advice today from our panelists. I really want to thank all of them for their great advice and their expertise and for sharing your experience with other students. I think one of our attendees commented he wished he'd had this information 3 years ago. We definitely see that a lot, that this is the type of information people need early rather than later. So, all of you have peers and friends that weren't able to be here today. Encourage them to start early. We're always trying to break that myth that you wait until the end of college to worry about career, or you wait until the end to look for an internship. It really ought to be something people need to be thinking about as soon as they get here, even if it isn't going to happen for a couple of years. The earlier you start thinking about it, the easier it is to go into that internship and be ready for it when the opportunity presents itself. Do we have any questions or final words before we sign off?
I would just say prepare to receive more no's than yeses, and don't be discouraged. You're going to be told no far, far more times before you receive a yes. So don't be discouraged. Keep applying and apply to anything that remotely looks like something that you could see yourself doing. So that would be my word advice.
That's very good advice. Very good advice. I think Myra's typing some advice in there. I think another thing I would add, yes, you said there's no hurt and help at those those no's hurt and help at the same time. Yeah, she's right. We learn from the no's for sure. I think another thing, even if you see something and you feel like it's outside your geographic location, go ahead and apply for it anyway. A lot of times those things work itself out too. There are a lot of universities that will, you still have to pay for it, but they'll have college housing available to interns in the summer. So that's an economical way to move to a new place that you don't have to take out a lease. It's short term. They know you're a college student. So that's another thing to look at, or look at where you might have family or friends living. Sometimes the internship, depending on your field, it may pay enough that it's something you could handle for the summer. So, just take a chance at any kind of opportunity that's out there. I think that's been a big message today.
Oh, one thing I would also add, something that I do personally for my resumes, if I'm applying to an internship for the fall, what I do is I look at what courses I'm going to be taking then, and I apply, and then I look at what jobs I want to do. And so I look at the course description of that, and then I put that in my resume, say I'm good. So I put coursework in my resume, courses I've taken to show that it relates to whatever job I'm applying to. So if I'm applying for a fall internship, I'll put in the classes I'm going to be taking during that semester because I'm going to be learning those skills. So that's just something that I always keep do too.
That's good advice. The keywords of skills and experiences that are in your field that you're going to see in job descriptions that you're applying to, those are very important to highlight. And a lot of companies are, when a human's looking at the resume, they're looking for those things. But if they're using applicant tracking systems, those AI technologies they're using are definitely looking for those keywords that are in the job description. So if you have those skills, make sure they're on your resume. It's very important. All right. Well, thank you, Ashlyn, Cassidy, Kobe, Stephanie. Thank you all for being here today. We did record the session. We will get this uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if you want to refer back to it or tell your friends to check it out, we will have our next session tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. It's listed in Handshake. It's our research as experience. Opportunities on and off campus. We have some faculty members and a former student, and we may have some current students as well who are doing some research. Talk about those experiences as another way to get experience. And I think what you'll find with that is a lot of those research experiences are pretty similar to an internship. And then we will have our nights at work sessions on Thursday at 12 and 2. All of those Teams links are available in Handshake. I hope everybody has a great rest of the evening, and please reach out to us in the CCLD at careerservices@mga.edu and let us know how we can help you with your internship search.